So today we're going to be changing the crankcase cover gasket on a vstar 650 1998, and as you can see I've already removed the aesthetic covers here. They don't actually do anything, they're just completely for looks. So go ahead and just remove those bolts holding them in. They're not holding any oil seals or anything like this, just remove them. I have them here, so just keep the screws with the parts. The first step is to drain the oil, which I've already done. The second step is to remove this side stand. You can see you need to remove this bolt here, and it is being held in place by a bolt here in the back, which is 14 millimeters. So you need to hold the bolt at the back with a wrench at the same time as you turn this bolt. And this bolt here is also 14 millimeters. So I can't do this with just one hand, so use a 14 millimeter to hold the bolt at the back while you turn this one. Then you do the same thing for the other bolt. Then you have it loose like this. Remember not to let it hang by this cable. So what you can do is either to support it on something underneath, or you can put it in here. Let's see, like that. It's supported by the frame, and this cable is not being stressed. After you have removed the side stand, the next step is to remove the entire shifter linkage. So important to note when you remove this whole shifter linkage is that there is a dot here. You can see it here, and when you put this back on, you need to make sure this dot aligns in the exact same location as it was when you took it out. So take note of where this dot is before you take this off. And we're going to start here, which is this is a 10 millimeter bolt. So just loosen that. This already gets a bit of play here. That's all we need. And don't try to force this out yet. You need to take it out from here, and this will come out with it. So the next step is to remove this entire foot peg, and it is held into the frame by these two bolts right here. And I am using a 15 millimeter socket to remove these bolts. Once you've gotten the bolt out, put one hand over there and pull that out simultaneously as you take this off the frame. Now for simplicity, I'm going to just put the bolts back in the frame. This means I have less bolts to keep track of, and there's lower potential of me losing any important bolts here. Now before we go and take care of this crankcase cover, it's important to note, and you need to know this, that these bolts that are holding the crankcase cover onto the engine are almost all of them different sizes and lengths. So it's extremely important that you know exactly which hole that each bolt went into when you took it out. So we're going to take it out in a specific order, and then I'm going to show you how the easiest way that I find to remember where the bolts go. So take your new gasket. This is a OEM Yamaha gasket for the vstar 650, and basically what you want to do is trace this shape onto a piece of cardboard. After that you can insert the bolts into the cardboard in the order that you take them out, and that way you will remember exactly where they go when you need to put the cover back on again. So this is not an exact science. I didn't actually trace it over. I just drew an outline myself. The most important thing is that you just need to know where the bolts go, and if you just draw an approximation of the gasket itself, you'll figure it out. Now, we're only going to be removing one bolt at a time and then placing it in the cardboard outline we made, just so that we're absolutely sure we don't mix up any bolts, because that'll be a pain to try to figure out where they go. And inside this case there is the stator, and the reason we drain the oil is because this entire case is filled with oil. So if you had taken this case off, the oil will just come flooding all over the place. So we're going to try to go in a star pattern to not cause any unnecessary tension in any of the bolts, thereby having risk of warping the case. And I like to start with the bolt at the top. I don't actually know the sizes of these bolts, but they're Allen bolts, and just use a tool until you find the right size. There we go. And we're not going to remove any of the bolts yet. We're simply going to loosen the bolts. Next, we are going to go from here down here. And we went from the top to here, so the next bolt should be here. Now we started here, we went down there, and then we did here. Next we'll go here. Now we'll go from this bolt to this bolt. And we went from this bolt to that bolt, meaning that bolt right here should be good. And I'm just going to give you a word of caution. This bolt right here is not for the crankcase. It is for part of the oil strainer, so do not remove this bolt here. So now we loosened this bolt, and this bolt. Now we'll go down one more step here. And then we will loosen this bolt up here. And then this bolt right in the bottom here. That bolt is loosened. Now it looks like we only actually have two bolts left, if I'm correct. Yes, this bolt and this bolt. I will choose to remove this bolt first, and there's no exact science behind why I chose to do that. I believe that the actual oil seal actually stays inside this cover. This part here is actually dry. There's no oil inside here. At least I don't think there should be any oil in here. Alright, and now that we have loosened all the bolts, I'm going to start removing them in the same star pattern. I'm starting up here, and I'll be putting them in the cardboard. First bolt. So there we have bolt number one. A good thing you can do as well is to mark in which order you took them out as well. So I'm gonna put a 1 here. This bolt. number 2. The next bolt I'm removing is this one. Now we're going one step to the left. I'm gonna remove this one here. I know this can feel like a tedious process, but it is important that you stay calm, be patient, and do a good job out of this. You do not want to damage anything, you don't want to lose any screws, and you do not want to mix up the order in which you took them out, because that will just lead to more problems down the road. Alright, then I'm going to take this bolt off. Taking this one. Next I'll be taking this bolt out. It is good to not remove the bolts one after the other like this, because that removes pressure and tension from one side while you're keeping the tension on the other, and potentially it doesn't, I'm not saying it has to happen, but you could warp the case along these edges then, meaning you'd have a much weaker oil seal, and that is what we want to avoid. Next I will be removing this. A slight correction, I'm sorry, but when we started with this bolt and went over to this one, I forgot to mark it as an 8. It had no marking, and this became 8. It's not a huge deal because it still ended up in the same place, but yeah, just so you know, this was the 8th bolt, this was the 9th, this is 10, and the last one is 11. Alright, and that is the last bolt. And there you have the finished cardboard. Now we can actually go ahead and remove the crankcase cover. And I can tell you that the most difficult part of this job has actually not even begun. That is, in fact, removing old gasket material from the surfaces of the case halves. That is an extremely tedious process. It's doable, but it takes a long time and hard work and dedication.